left it blank, and we would really like to urge you to give us either a yes or a no. We're not really looking for wishy-washy answers, so if we get something that isn't a yes, we're going to put it down as a no. So
Well, Mr. Lorsawak is walking to the mic. Due process and gang profiling is a heavy section of the CSA. It says that no police officer shall identify any individual as a member of a gang in any list or database maintained by any law enforcement agency, nor in any written notes, reports, memorandum, or other document. The list of criteria used to determine inclusion on the gang list or gang database shall not include association with another, people identified as gang members, race, physical characteristics, location or domicile, nor location or counter. Then there are more parts to that section. This came out of a lot of youth in particular talking about being on the gang list and never knowing how they were ever put on it, never even seeing a police officer that could have possibly put them on it, and they're on there for a long time, and it affects a lot of things. So we do not want this gang database. Mr. Lursa, go ahead and explain why you left it blank, and give us a yes or a no, or we will mark no.
So I'm not sure I fully understand the format. So I speak for 5 minutes on this?
No, for this,
5 minutes on each section.
on each section, yeah. Okay, so we also have number 12 to get through, so a minute and a half, does that sound good? Okay, a minute and a half.
So 5 minutes for me or 5 minutes for okay. And 5 minutes talking about the entire section?
Yeah, the section that was there when you got there.
Okay. So good evening, everyone, and thank you all so much for being here. It's a great pleasure for me to be here, and it's especially important to see so many members of the community. And it's cold outside, it's raining outside, and we're all here because we're participating in our democracy. And I appreciate all of your interest and attention into this forum and into this race. And today we're here to talk about community safety. We're here to talk about public safety. I'd like to speak generally for a moment about my vision and how that fits into my answers that I gave to each one of the questions in this forum. My vision for public safety begins with this idea that we have to ferment and develop these relationships between the community and the police. I grew up right down the street here in the West End on Cranston Street, right on the corner of Cranston Street and Waldo. And I can tell you countless times that I was profiled, that I was pulled over, that I was frisked, that I had to go through all this rigmarole. In addition, this is something that blows a lot of people away. I've been pulled over twice on my bicycle. On my bicycle, I've been pulled over twice, let alone how many times I've been pulled over in a car. And I remember what it was like growing up as a teenager here in the city. You're out, you're trying to just spend some time with your friends, and you get randomly pulled over, you get frisked, it ruins your night, and you get treated rudely, you get treated abused. It happens to so many of us here in the community. And so that perspective informs all of the answers that I gave through this entire questionnaire. And what I want to do going forward is to make sure that those relationships between the police department and the community are as strong as possible. Because law enforcement today, it's not just about arresting bad guys. It's about making sure that the community and the police, they see each other in a mutually reinforcing role as partners. And the police department understands that its role is to be that partner in community development. So how do we get it? So how do we get it? We get there by making sure that from the very beginning and from the very top of City Hall and the police department, we focus on that trust. And the reason why I said I left number 9 blank is that, look, none of us like and none of us want to support the gang violence. We all need to clamp down on it as much as possible. But we also have to make sure that we protect the civil rights of each one of our residents. And that's very difficult to do if we empower the police with a number of different strategies. So there has to be checks on the police but at the same time, we have to work through the details so that we walk that fine balance between protecting our civil rights in the community and making sure that we can clamp down on gang violence. The accountability and enforcement.
I do need to reiterate once again, Mr. Laws, that if it's not a yes, I'm going to consider it a no. So, to question number 9, sir, are you saying it's a yes or a no?
So, I'm not prepared to say yes, so you can put it down.
Okay, we'll put it down as a no, and then also, I know you didn't get a chance to speak on it, but number 12, accountability and enforcement, sir, is that a yes or a no?
The same thing.
Very good, thank you.
I'm just gonna, although I know you're out of time to speak of this, just a really quick comment. I don't understand how you think that we should be holding police accountable, yet you check no for accountability and enforcement. That's very interesting. Okay. So moving on.
Okay, and the other thing is that's why hundreds of community members and organizations and attorneys have gotten together for the past 2 years to create the Community Safety Act. Is because we understand what police should be doing in our community, and that's why we created this. We actually feel we know how to hold them accountable and what they should be doing, so we're quite confident in terms of what we need them to be doing. So we'll go ahead and go to Buddy Cianci. So we have some a lot of varied answers. Explain the different parts that he has said no to, and then again we'll look at his yeses and speak about how we can hold him accountable to his yeses. Actually we will start with his blanks, which is number 4, video recording by the public. So Buddy Cianci did write comments on some of his answers, so we'll go ahead and look at his comments if it impacts it. So, number 4 you left. Sorry, do you have any? Number 4. Sorry. Number 4, video recording by the public.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for being here in this terrible weather, because this is a very important topic. And just this morning, we had a cousin of an advanced man who works at my staff gunned down at Chad Brown, and I had the awful experience of having, I happened to be the Da Vinci Center and happened to see the grandmother there. And this is one reason why we should be here tonight, because this is a problem in our city. Let me tell you why I checked no, why I didn't check no, I left it blank. Videotaping, I'm all for videotaping, all the police officers having the incident videotaped. However, there's a couple of instances that I think where a police officer should not or should help block the video camera. And it's when we've had a terrible crime committed or a body in the street, and the family doesn't even know that that person is dead or hurt or maimed. I think that the police officer should have the decorum to tell that blogger or that person who is coming up to make a video of someone in pain and someone agonizing. I think that's the circumstance that I was referring to. That's when someone would be, a police officer would be obliged almost to block that videotape. But I think that's it. All the videotaping, I agree with.
Excuse me, in the questionnaire that you received, it strictly was like, it says very clearly, the public making video or audio recordings of police activity.
That's fine.
Which, okay, so I don't understand why it's like, that doesn't mean dead bodies in the middle of the street or family.
You know, this question that came through with like 15 questions and either said yes or no. And so, in the abundance of caution, I wanted to make sure that I didn't tell you it was true. I believe that the police have a right, or you have a right to videotape any scene, videotape a policeman. There's no question about that. I think it's necessary. However, I was referring, as I said, that if there is someone laying in the street dying, and the family doesn't even know about it, I believe that a police officer should have the decorum to block that blogger or that videotaper from reporting an awful tragedy scene.
So do you want to, like Ariana said, it actually says police activity. So if you want, you could say yes on this and then we can hold that accountable. Or you say
I
no.
would say yes to generally the whole thing. I just want that exception that if a police officer sees someone block or videotaping a body in the street, I think that's not right. But I think that all the rest of it is a yes. Yes, I think you can probably leave yes.
Right now, Betty, we have a no, and you also gave us a response. You said that you believe that cars or people should be searched under reasonable suspicion. If that the police have the training and police should be clear on what constitutes reasonable suspicion. So right now we have a no on searches. So while you're looking at your questionnaire and getting ready to prepare, so everyone knows, searches, it's very general, but in our CSA we have no individual shall be requested to consent to a search by a law enforcement officer to his or her motor vehicle, person, or belongings. The officer shall document in writing on a standardized encounter form his or her probable cause, grounds for conducting a search, and shall also, where practical, call in such information to a dispatcher or supervising officer prior to a search.
I have no problem with the police asking people to consent to a search, so long as they have reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion is more than a hunch. It's not a blank check. It's the reasonable presumption that a crime is being committed, like a man stumbling home, leaving a car, as an example. Other than that, police don't have the right to search just for a traffic stop.
I'm very clumsy, so I stumble, and so is that okay? So we're saying that might fall under reasonable suspicion, but is that probable cause?
If you're coming,
So we need a yes or a no to searches.
if you're coming out of a bar with a
Yes or no to searches, or what we have listed here.
I would have to say yes. Okay, I have to say yes.
Okay, the last one that we have was number 12. You have a no on it, and we want to know why you're saying no. So that's the accountability piece.
Let me see how we answer.
Accountability and enforcement.
Basically how we answer.
So right now, you said a civilian review board already exists.
1 minute left.
If the education board isn't meeting the needs of the communities, if elected, you will work with the community organizations and stakeholders to revamp it, but you still have no. Why no on accountability and enforcement of the Community Safety Act?
Is this still our question, Ryan?
No. We're on number 12, where you answered no, accountability and enforcement.
Conduct this a search, police officer must provide his or her name and badge number. I agree with that. Any member of the public may ask an non-duty law enforcement officer's business card, containing the officer's name, all that. Some of this is answered, take a while, is answered.
Yes, all right, so we're going to leave it as a no then.
I'm going to leave it as a significant review for
Time is up. The time is up. Thank you very much, sir. We do appreciate your appreciation. So to keep things flowing a little bit better, what we're going to do from this point forward, we're going to allow the candidates to get up, and they have 5 minutes total to discuss any of their no's or blanks all the way down the line. Once their 5 minutes are up, we're going to ask them for a direct answer, or if they want to change any of their answers. Because we want to leave here knowing specifically what their answers are to these questions. So moving along to the next candidate.
We still want to do, well, Hair doesn't have any blanks or no's, so now we'll do the 5 minutes. So we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Larsa, if you would like to come up. Oh no, we're going to do her. I'm sorry. Okay.
Mr. Harris, you have 5 minutes, sir, to discuss your feelings
And
about
if you can explain how you're going to be held accountable to all your yeses.
Listen, my name's Ian Harris. I'm the Republican candidate. The reason everybody to come up and explain why I have no yes.
One mic, please. Remember, one mic. Respect, please. One mic.
I think people will doubt my answers. Oh, it's the Republican candidate. So let me tell you where I came from. I've never made any bones about the fact I came from a very comfortable police family. I've got 3 guys here. I'm the only guy who grew up with a policeman because after my mother's father was widowed, he was a Providence policeman, a motorcycle cop, he came to live with us. And my grandfather, my father's uncle, rather, was actually police chief of the little town we grew up in. So I grew up in a police family. So I have experience with that. But I also am a psychiatrist. And I run major mental health centers. East Bay Mental Health Center, Providence Center. These are centers that serve the poor and disadvantaged. And I've treated psychiatric patients. And they are also profiled. They are also pulled in. They walk down the street, they mutter, they look odd. They're fine. They're sick. And I have respect for the fact that they've been pulled over. And in many times, I hassled with them. What did the guy do? Well, he looked odd. He looked, well, you know, we had to stop him. He looked odd. And that type of profiling goes on every place. And it's going on for millennia, and it's going on for in every place. And you know, sometimes when I talk about Republican free market principles and right to work laws, and community education, I feel like I'm speaking Latin to the group because they look a little confused. So let me use some Latin tonight. Quis custodiat ipsas custodes. That was said 2,500 years ago in response to when they were setting up police in ancient Rome. And the Satirist Juvenal said, great, we're setting up guards, but quis custodiat ipsas custodes. Who guards the gods? And who guards the gods is the people guards the gods. The politicians who set up and make sure that there is accountability for all police and for all law enforcement. And that's what we need in every city and in all places. Thank you.
Mr. Hart, would you care to change any of your answers you have up there? Very good. You. Yes, another round of applause for our candidates and to wonderful woman who posed the questions. Okay, very good. We're going to move on to our next element of discussion. Public money and the public good.
And we're bringing on Executive Director Federer Nunez from the Direct Action for Rights and Equality and Admiral to the Regional Carbon.
So, once again, just to reiterate, Abby and Fred are going to quickly go through the gist of the overall of the questions, and then we're going to give the candidates 5 minutes apiece to address any of their blanks or no, and let us know if they want to change any of their answers. So, Abby and Fred, please take it away.
Hello, everyone. All right, dual role here, sound and this part. All right, public money for public good. Spoke about the fair market, free market. I always want to say fair market, but it's the free market that we're talking about. This idea that the free market and is going to somehow take care of social problems is why we have the problems we have right now. Poverty here in Providence has gotten progressively worse every decade for the past 4 decades. Worse every decade for the past 4 decades. While we've seen downtown big buildings put up, luxury hotels, all kinds of arts, all kinds of developments, that has not trickled down to our communities.
Quiet down.
This is the problem. Jim Bennett, who's the head of economic development for the city, was asked if other than big tax breaks, tax stabilization agreements, for big corporations, did he have any other ideas for economic development? He said, that's beyond my pay grade. So what we have is all our tax dollars that could be going to our schools here, to services here that are direly needed, to all kinds of programs that we don't have. Instead, are going to big developers so that somehow the economy is going to get so good that it's going to trickle down to us. But this is false, this is a lie, and this is what's happened for the past 40 years. We're ready to give the Superman building $40 million in a subsidy, and over $100 million in a tax break, so that rich people can move in, and somehow that's going to trickle down to our communities. But we're not willing to pay $14 million that it would take to eradicate homelessness, and everybody is on a waiting list for housing. So they're going to be given these tax breaks, and we're saying, well, if you're going to give these tax breaks, we better have some tangible community benefits, because right now we're not getting nothing. And so we made a list here, and Abby's going to talk about the list.
Thank you, Fred. I just want to back up what Fred said. I'm a researcher for the New England Regional Council of Carpenters, and so I do a lot of tracking public money and where it goes, and it's nothing more important than making sure that we get the value for our dollar, especially when tax money is concerned. So the first bunch of points on here are about creating new jobs. So for the first $35,000 given in subsidies to a company as an incentive to come to Providence, we want to make sure one new job's created. I think that's a fair and reasonable salary for someone. New hires should reflect the demographic of the city. So like I said before, 75% of Providence is made up of people of color. And so when we do hire for these jobs, we should make sure it reflects that same percentage. We want to use apprenticeship programs for construction projects, because apprenticeship is a proven job creator, and we want to make sure that people have real skills to take with them for a career and not just a job for 3 months on a project. We want to prioritize hiring people from high crime, unemployment, and poverty areas, because the only way we can really stem the violence and crime is by creating more opportunities and jobs for people on their path to success. Along with that, non-discrimination, because there shouldn't be anything, your gender, sexual orientation, your status, anything that discriminates you from applying for these jobs, especially when it's your city, making sure that they happen. We want to offer job trainings to people in the community. We want to make sure those people working are receiving a living wage so that they can pay for their bills and engage in economic trade, buy things around town. We want to pay for sick days, because I don't want to get sick because you have to come to work sick. It's only right. Along with health benefits, it's a human right and higher to have them. Contribute to the Community Benefits Fund. I think this one's particularly important because, as I said before, these tax breaks, they're not a gift. They're really meant to incentivize people to come here, but we also need benefits to come out of it and pay it forward. So this would be a fund overseen by community members for other projects like investing in repairing schools or libraries or rental vouchers. We want to hire responsible contracts that have wage standards so that people who work hard, who work 40 hours a week, don't live in poverty. And providing monthly reporting on these things, this is so we have the proof that contractors and developers and companies coming and taking our tax breaks are making the changes that we see are important. And this happens already on public works jobs, so it's not too far a stretch. We want to reserve the right to take back subsidies if companies aren't complying with these standards, because no one gets away scot-free if they're not following the rules. Also, the last question, 15, 16, the last two there, about having a community voice and making sure that people are represented when these companies come and seek these agreements, and also making sure when there's a compliance officer hired to enforce them that we have a voice there too. Lastly, the implementation of the First Source Ordinance is really important. Some of the groups that are involved in this coalition work are currently in court fighting the city of Providence for not enforcing the First Source Ordinance, which puts Providence people to work first and foremost. And that's right. So we want to make sure that these standards are met for people receiving our money, because the public money should go towards the public good.
Quick announcement before we bring the first candidate up. There are 2 cars blocking the entrance to the parking lot. The first is Rhode Island registration ET192. And the second one, it says it's Mr. Cianci's truck. So if we can ask put 3 votes, we make sure there's free entrance and exit at the parking lot. Thank you very much.
All right, so here we go with the questions, and the candidates are going to have 5 minutes to respond to their questionnaire. And we can start with Jorge. Be quiet.
One mic, Joe, up, please. One mic, Joe, each side.
All right. So Jorge, excuse me, can we get the noise down? Other people are trying to watch this. All right. So Jorge, it looks like you answered yes to most of these, but it looks like you gave no answer on giving people a living wage. You gave no answer on having community members be at the table when these deals are negotiated, and you gave no answer to having community members participate in the hiring process for a compliance officer, because we know what's happened in the past. So Jorge, you have 5 minutes to either change those, answer those into a yes or a no, and please explain to us why our communities do not deserve these benefits when we're giving them our tax dollars.
I want to make sure I fully understand. So 5 minutes to talk about only the issues that I didn't say yes on, or talk about the entire questionnaire?
However you'd like to spend your 5 minutes, Jorge, but at the end, we're going to pressure you for a yes or a no on the questions that will look like. So
I'll get to follow the instructions. I'll get to number 8. So number 8. Right now with number 8. So the state doesn't allow the city to set its own minimum wage above the state minimum. The city to set its own minimum wage above the state minimum wage. But I look forward to working with a number of community advocates to repeal that law. I oppose that law so that each city and community can set their own minimum wage above the state minimum wage. I look forward to working with that. So with number 15, have board and community representatives ensure compliance. So the reason I didn't put yes or no on that one is because, frankly, the devil is in the detail. And what exactly does that mean? I don't want to commit to something. What you won't hear from me is someone who says on the campaign trail, I promise to do this, I promise to do that, and then, first day in office, everything changes. So in terms of the spirit of what I want to do, sure, I want to have community representatives and make sure that each one of our companies that receive a tax break or a tax subsidy, that they're held accountable. I've made it a pledge from the very beginning that there's going to be no more corporate giveaways anymore. If someone receives a subsidy from the city, there has to be a public good in exchange for it. And I'm going to appoint someone directly responsible and accountable to me in the mayor's office that makes sure that any company that receives any kind of subsidy is held responsible for each one of their responsibilities. That means making sure that they're compliant with First Source. That means making sure that they're hiring the right women and minority contractors, because this is public money and it should go for public good right here in the city. And then, so with number 16, have community members participate in the hiring of the compliance officer. It's the same answer for that. In principle, this is what I want to do. The hiring and firing, all of those personnel decisions, that's the responsibility of the administration. But I understand that in all of the decisions that we make, there has to be room available for public input. And I look forward to working with this organization and organizations throughout the city to make sure that that community voice is heard in every decision that we make in City Hall. The devil's in the details, so I'm not exactly sure what was meant here, so I left it blank. The spirit of what I want to do is absolutely yes. From the entire board, I think that it's clear that I have a platform, I have a vision, and I have an agenda that's aligned with the economic needs of the community. And I look forward to making it a reality.
very good, sir. Jorge, once again, if it's a blank, we're going to put it as a no. So everything's over the yes. Fantastic.
Everything's a yes, correct?
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, the same. So now we're going to go to Buddy's dancing. And Buddy, it looks like you answered yes to most of these, but you answered no to giving people a living wage. You answered no to providing the sick days. You answered no to providing health benefits. You answered, oh, which one? Oh, I'm sorry. 14. You answered no to taking our tax dollars back when these companies are not delivering on what they're supposed to be delivering. And you answered no on having community members be at the table when these agreements are negotiated. Buddy, you have 5 minutes to tell us. Oh, no answer. So those are no answers. I'm sorry, I kept saying no, but there's no answer. So for us, a no answer is a no until it changes to a yes. Sorry about that. So you have 5 minutes to fill in those either yes or no. And please explain to us if it's a no, why our communities do not deserve these benefits for our tax dollars we're giving these companies.
Thank you very much. Let me start off by saying jobs, jobs, jobs. That's what this is about. That's how we're going to turn this economy around, and that's how we're going to make a better Providence. I support all the things that you talked about or questioned us on. The first one that I did not answer with a yes, although my answer with a yes was pay the workers the living wage. I think the answer to that question is I agree with Mr. Alorza, and that is that I would support a $15 minimum wage. However, you can't afford to do that in some companies. A small company, a mom and pop store that wants to hire somebody, a 3-person, 4-person operation, same goes with the sick leave, or the sick leave, or the one concerning sick leave. And I personally believe that you cannot put the burden on a small mom and pop operation, because then you're going to have even community centers that are strapped for money, having to pay the $15 wage. But we ought to work toward that, and I think I put in my questionnaire an explanation that we have to work toward getting that $15 up. And the only way you're going to do that is to have a good relationship with the state legislature to accomplish that. Look, first source, absolutely. We give out subsidies. Just the other day, we gave $1.5 million of taxable money that would come into us for tax stabilization. The law is that they can only last 15 years. And now what happened was they voted to extend that stabilization for another 5 years. So we lost $1.5 million. When I was mayor before, we had a resource officer. We had a person, John Rollins was the person we appointed. And we reached out to the minority community to create those jobs. But I can tell you that without any hesitation, I would support, yes, you can make that answer yes, with the reservation. With the reservation. That when you have a small 1 or 2 person operation, they can't afford that. And I also think that when you bring a business in, yeah, we're going to give them a tax stabilization, and they better comply. And they better give jobs to the city of Providence and not give them to people outside the state or outside the city of Providence, because we need our people to go to work first. And take back the subsidies, I didn't answer that, because if it's take it right back, I think you have to have a process. Have to have them confront you, or whoever you would pick to sit on the board that I proposed that would have the kind of authority to sit in on what subsidies we give to businesses when they locate here. Because I think that is what you're looking for, and you're looking for a voice. You've been shut out too long. The last 10 years have shut out. And you know something? When you have to take the mayor to court to enforce the law on the books, then something's wrong with that picture. Take back subsidy, but you have to have a process. You have to have a little bit of due process here. We're going to take them to court. We can know we can put them up on the stage. We can ask them, how come we didn't comply? That'd be due process, okay? That's what I envision. So you can mark that yes. As far as Board of Community Representatives ensure companies comply with these standards, I think I just said that. And have community members participate in the hiring of a compliance officer. As far as I'm concerned, I'd always go to the community to ask who they would recommend. Give me a pool of names. Find out who's the best and brightest that can do that job. Who is consistent with the ideas of justice? Who is consistent with the ideas of fairness? And who's consistent with the ideas of putting people back to work with a reasonable wage? Question that families are struggling out there, not only in the crime area, but also in getting a job. You walk around the city, like I have in the past 6 months, and you find the stories of this city, you find a guy trying to support his family, and he doesn't know if he can get a job. We have to depend on the city of Providence, not to give jobs out as far as municipalities are concerned. We've got a tough budget problem, but businesses do want to locate here. Businesses do have subsidies here. They do have tax stabilizations here, and they should comply with what they got and be reasonable with us, and we'll be reasonable with them. We need jobs, and we need to hold those companies to their standards and respect.
Once again, we have Rhode Island plate 907-333, a black Suburban. You are blocking the entrance. Please move the vehicle immediately. It is a safety hazard.
Did they move my car?
I don't know.
George, where are you?
Thank you very much.
What kind of car is it?
A black Suburban.
It's blocking the front entrance, so please somebody move your black Suburban.
Also, a quick note, if you are blocking an exit in the space and crowding on the side, we would please like you to clear. It's actually a fire hazard, and allow folks to walk through the exits and entrances and the side of the stage, please, to the food and things like that. We would just ask for folks to clear the space so folks can maneuver around.
I chose better Cianci. They're really
Okay, so we have our
Yeah, I know.
There is also space upstairs for anyone who might be standing out here.
crazy.
Oh, we're not allowed to go up there, so never mind.
And the
Right.
doesn't matter,
All right.
you know?
So Daniel, I'm surprised that you answered all of these yes, but you did. Except for paying workers a living wage, which I'll give you, you have 5 minutes to talk about that, and also why you said yes to the rest of these. And I would like to also add that if it turns out that we can't have a living wage for agreements, not a minimum wage for the city, it turns out that we can have them for tax agreements. It sounds like you are both on board on doing it. So, take it away.
It's so funny.
Sure, the one no, to get to that right away, is because the way I read the question, it was not just money for the public good. I have no problem with public projects and doing that type of thing. It was also setting a $15 minimum living wage. I would argue a bit with that figure, and so I would read that as no. I'm not going to change that. I think that requires much more negotiation. We have, because of our near highest in the nation commercial tax rates in the city, as well as our problems with zoning and permitting, business is not coming to the city. It's been driven away because of the bad financial decisions that were made over the course of the last 30 years. This is Cianci's cost of living agreements, 6%. We pay $3 to $4 million every single year because of that consent agreement. And that money goes right down the tubes. So I would not agree with that one thing. I'm going to tell you why I agree with the other thing. Public money for the public good, I absolutely believe. If it's our money, we get to control it, and like a private businessman would control his private business with his private money and not have any city money or any state money or any federal money. They get to do what they want with their business. And the city should be able to do what it wants with its business as well. So all the other platforms I have absolutely no disagreement with. I just think we need to maintain ourselves with some flexibility regarding the living wage figure. The form said $15, which is what particularly attracted me. But I think that's the one area that we need to have a little more flexibility on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Howard. And once again, sir, would you care to change any of your answers, or are you going to keep them where they're at? All right, and I must apologize, Mr. Cianci, we did not give you the opportunity to do the same, sir. Do you wish to change any of your answers, or do you want to keep them the same?
I think I did address it. I think for the basis, I wanted to just clarify, because as I said, when these questions were asked, it was a whole, you had to answer yes or no to the whole questionnaire. So yes, as far as taking back subsidies and not compliance with standards, absolutely yes. I think I built up to that in my speech here. Have the board of prerequisites for sure? Absolutely. I've said all that, but I wanted to explain what I meant by it. So, have community members participate behind compliance subsidies, absolutely. I don't disagree with that.
We're talking about number 8 and 9. So pay workers a living wage, and number 9, paid sick days. Would you like to change those answers to a yes?
For smaller companies, mom and pop stores, I don't think they can afford it. But for any other business, I have to set a certain level, a certain standard.
Okay. Father provides paid sick
So we'll leave that a no, sir, or a yes. We just want to write it on the record.
The way, that's not, I don't think that's right. If you can afford to pay your workers.
Not the poor mom and pop businesses, but
Couldn't it be
for
this?
big businesses.
We'll mark it a yes, we can mark it a yes, and you can say yes with reservations if you like, or you can leave it no.
Yes, except for the two-person operation.
Put it down a yes. Very good, very good, very good.
Alright, so I thank the candidates and whatever the outcome on November 1st, or 4th rather, don't forget the Providence First campaign, public money for public good. Thank you.
Thank you. Round of applause for our candidates and our hosts. All right. Some point. We're on to our last section. This is the community agenda to address violence and to give us a brief overview of what it's all about. Sheila Wilhelm, Vice Chairperson of Direct Action for Rights and Equality, and Carolyn Thomas Davis of One Voice, Rhode Island.
Thank you, Joe. Everybody. In the beginning, earlier tonight, we talked about how this came to be. The community agenda to address violence came after a 5-person shooting in the Chad Brown section of Providence. But this isn't specific to any one neighborhood. It affects our whole city. Violence, shootings, stabbings, it's affecting all of us. It's affecting our families, it's affecting our kids, and it's way too much. So we've spent time being reactive. This is a proactive measure to address violence. It was first brought together by 5 points of the NAACP, and then over the last few months, members of the community, members of our groups have met consistently to put these together. Each one of the candidates, as you can see, voted yes to support our efforts. Each one of our candidates voted yes to support the efforts. So we should clap, and we could say, wow, that's really great, and let's be happy. But now is the time for us to hear how you're going to do this. This is our time to talk about accountability. We've talked about jobs, we've talked about different things going on, and tonight we're talking about our lives of our children. And we want to hear how you're going to address these things, and then we can decide. We can decide if this is real or if this is more rhetoric. So the first person I'm going to call up is Jorge Alonso.
So I'm proud to stand here and say that, I selected yes to each one of these questions, and I'm proud that each one of my competitors in this race also circled yes. Now, there's broad agreement that the only way that we're going to address the issue of violence is to address it in a comprehensive way. It's not just about putting more cops on the street. Sure, we need more cops on the beat, but that's one small part of it. So much more of it entails making sure we provide holistic services, making sure that there are jobs in the community, making sure that kids have safe places to go, making sure that there are recreational activities for our young people in the schools, after schools, and also for our adults later on in life. It takes a comprehensive approach. So I'd like to go through a few of these. The first thing is that, Providence Recreation Department. A couple of weeks ago, I released my plan for sports and recreation throughout the city. When I was growing up, I grew up in a bad neighborhood, but there was a playground right outside. And all the kids from the entire community, we came together around that playground. And aside from scuffles here and there between us, it kept us out of trouble. We played sports all the time. We got to know each other and developed those lifelong friendships. And I carry that experience with me throughout my life. I've always been a sports fan. I've always coached Little League. I played sports growing up. And that's a problem that many of our kids, they're missing out even on gym class. during the day. Sports teach kids how to win, how to lose. It teaches them you always have to try harder. It teaches them the value of teamwork. It teaches them that someone always has something to add, and brings people together. Again, when I was young, we used to play in different sports leagues, and we traveled to one part of the neighborhood or city to another, and you get to know those kids. You get to know those kids and you see that they're not your enemies. They're not your enemies that eventually erupts into some kind of violence. You know each other, you develop those relationships, sports do that, and that's why it's important, and I made it a priority in my campaign. Also, providing better programs and services for youth age 15 to 21 around the city. Again, we have to do a much better job of our rec centers, make sure that we provide them the kind of supports that you need. Now, I was talking with a director of a rec center in the South Side, and he was telling me that he has some potential corporate sponsors that are willing to provide them some funds so that they can offer more programming to the community. But the problem that they have is that the city has no mechanism. It has no fund that anyone can make contributions to and be certain that that money is going to go to work to support this community center. Now, those little things like that, shouldn't we at least have a fund so that if we can bring private dollars into the rec centers, that they should be able to accept those dollars and be assured that they can use those in their programming? We can do little things like that. They go such a long way. Also, moving on to number 4, job training. Another dirty little secret here is that we've been playing politics for a very long time in the city. Do you know that right now, part of the problem with providing job training throughout the city is that there are federal reporting requirements. So of course we always want to look good in our federal reporting requirements. But what has occurred is that the city has an incentive to only provide job training to those individuals that are virtually guaranteed of getting a job once they go through the job training program, so that it looks good with our federal reporting. We can't play these games anymore. We have to make sure that we're actually providing job training for the communities that need them the most. And guess what? Those are the communities that, frankly, they're usually the least likely to be hired. But that's why we need to provide our job training services to these communities. So we have to stop playing games, stop playing politics, and direct our resources and attention to where we need it the most. The last thing that I mentioned, I have about 30 seconds. I've also proposed a citywide internship program for our young people. We want to keep kids off the streets, and we want to give them, keep them out of violence. Let's provide them a job. It used to be the case that we had widespread internship, mentorship, and apprenticeship programs. I want to invest in a citywide internship program so we can provide jobs to our young people throughout the summers and also engage our private companies and our businesses to make sure that they offer paid internships to their kids. We have the ability to do this. It's just about making our communities a priority, and I will do that. Absolutely not.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Great, Mr. Jorge, thank you. Mr. Olorza, thank you. Mr. Cianci, we'd like to give you the opportunity now to express your answers. Elaborate, change, whichever you wish. 1.5 minutes.
Well, this is talking about community agenda to address violence. What happened in our community today was appalling. And yesterday, what's been happening has been terrible with the crime, the gangs, and the shooting. And I agree that we need police officers. And I guarantee that in the first budget I submit, we'll have another police academy. However, it's not what these police officers, who they are, it's not how many you have, it's where they work and how they are resourced. And I submit to you that in 1992, I established community policing in the city of Providence. It's all but dead now because we don't have the manpower. We need police officers to work with the community groups. If you walk around these communities and you speak to individuals I have, they want police in their community, but they want policemen with respect, who have respect for them, fairness, they want justice. So we have to build that trust. And what better way to build the trust than have sensitivity training and understand that police officers need to respect. Because a police department that doesn't have discipline turns out to something that we don't want. That's number one. Resource officers, community police officers in the neighborhood, working with the community groups, working with the football leagues, working with the baseball leagues, working with the neighborhood groups, and to get an understanding. The cop on the beat, he doesn't know him as the cop, he knows his Sergeant Speed. He knows him, and he's going to spot that kid. If that kid is going to go into a game, he's going to go to his parents, he's going to talk to him, they're going to work it out. That's the kind of stuff that we need to do. We're not going to arrest our way out of this problem, we're going to build our way out of this problem by making sure we establish those community relations. Number two, talk about recreation. When I was mayor, we built 5 new recreation centers in this city. 5. You know how many closed? They closed 5. Go to the recreation department, they don't have a bus that works, number one. Doesn't exist. Number 2, they closed Camp Cronin where kids would go down there. When I was there before, we had a program where we sent kids to the police academy for 8 weeks. They learned and they respected. Kids don't join games when they're 25 years old. They join when they're 14, 13. When I was there, we had a tattoo removal program. Once we got that kid out of the game, they would do something, participate in the program. We actually had doctors volunteer. They run in the hospital, take the tattoos, rip off their legs, or wherever they had them. Those are the kinds of things that we need to do. We have to provide the mayor's council on alcohol and drug abuse.
No, I hear it. I hear it.
We had some of these gang warriors. We had that prevention program. So it's police, it's respect, it's training, it's putting police in neighborhoods to work with the groups. In addition to that, it's also providing a recreational opportunity. Go to the Chad Brown. Go to Chad Brown Alumni Association. Talk to them. Talk to Tom Span. Talk to the Davy Lopes director. And you'll find out that at Chad Brown, they tried to give computers. They had a company, 20 computers to go off to Madeline Rogers Recreation Center. They said, no, we can't do that. Go into the recreation department now, or go into a gym at one of those places. You'll see the place all dirty. It's going to be clean. We all know the problem. As great as closing the swimming pool in the heat wave. That really made it happen for us, didn't it? And then they opened it in November or December when it was cold out. You have to have leadership, and you have to have an immersion into the community, put the programs together, and resource these private groups that are trying to do a job. Whether it's the Mount Hope football team, the Cowboys, whether it's the West Elmwood Intruders, all those people, they're all doing such a great job. And we've got to support those neighborhood groups, those athletic groups. We had midnight basketball when I was mayor. Kids got tired, they played basketball all night. They had roll It's a multifaceted effort here. It's occupying and getting involved in a kid's life. It's mentoring him. And yeah, one of my economic development programs starts in the high schools where we actually get apprenticeships for kids to work. And then we get a job when they get out of high school, not hanging on the street corner and without having a job. Apprenticeships, keep them occupied, and we'll have a safer city here. You know, back in 1994, 96, whenever it was, the Little Cities Almanac called Providence, Rhode Island, the safest city in America. We can do it again, doing the kinds of things that we're suggesting tonight. And I think that it's our responsibility. It's not the mayors alone. It's those people who are out there working in the community every day. And you've got to give those groups the resources they need. They need support, they need funding, and they need everyone to help.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cianci.
If anybody loves the city of Providence like I do, they better change their way.
On the streets, and that has fallen down over the course of the last number of years. I hope to place greater emphasis on the fact that we need additional educational opportunities, not just job training, but educational opportunities from ages 2 right through high school that the city needs to fund and support and address. I think it's important that it continues throughout the school year and that the children have an ability to stay busy in wholesome activities and activities that will really develop them so that they can reach their goals in life. I have previously said I think it is a scandal that the first source ordinance has not been enforced in this city. I think that for years it's been ignored, can't figure out why, and it's very difficult to explain to people how the city can continue to ignore a first source ordinance. And I do believe that there has to be additional liaison between the police and the community. I think that there are some innovative programs that can get the police to live in the city. They maybe don't now, but I think that there are ways in order to do that. And I'll keep this short, but I have to end on this particular point. If you want to decrease violence in the city, you cannot have a mayor in City Hall who has a continuous history of violence.
Just to let everyone know, we are asking that you please keep the questions to the topics that were discussed this evening. Questions to the topics that were discussed this evening. If you are interested in asking a question, please form a line either to my right or to Sharabi's left. And we will go in order. We'll take questions for about 10 to 15 minutes. And once again, please be respectful. Please keep your questions targeted to the initiatives that were discussed this evening. Anyone? We have a gentleman right here, and a form line right here. We'll go with this gentleman, and we'll stop the line right behind her. Well, we can do it on both sides. Sir, please, this gentleman right here has the glasses. Please give your name, sir.
I would ask the candidates, under the violence and community partnerships, what are we going to do about homelessness in the city and housing programs that will prevent homelessness?
Any of the candidates would like to step up to the podium to answer, please do.
For folks who did not hear the question was, what were we going to do about homeless folks in the city and housing? That was posed to the mayoral candidates.
And how much time do we have for this?
Give it about a minute and a half.
Minute and a half, okay. And so I used to be a housing attorney. And I graduated from one of the best schools in the world. And instead of taking one of the fancy jobs at the big firms, I ended up taking, basically working for peanuts. Working at Rhode Island Legal Services, representing people from this very community. Giving folks free legal services to people who are getting evicted from their homes, people who are victims of discrimination. And I dedicated my life to representing those people who were right on the edge, those people that had no safety net, those people that if I allowed to be evicted because I lost their case, they would sleep that first night on the street. And I took my responsibility very seriously. And I see some of my colleagues, one of my colleagues over here, she can attest, boy, I used to give them hell. And we used to make sure that we fought for every single one of my clients. I've also been a housing court judge here in the city. And as a housing court judge, I went against all of the biggest banks in the world. They were too big to care about our city and about our community. I brought them into my little court here in Providence, and I made them care. I made them take responsibility. I went so far as to threaten to arrest the presidents of Bank of America and Deutsche Bank until they came to Providence to take responsibility, because these abandoned properties, we should be coming up with ways to rehabilitate them, to have families move in there, to make them affordable housing, and in the process, hire our small businesses and our small contractors to repair these homes so that we can create jobs, so we can get families in there. And 2 weeks ago, I released my comprehensive plan. My plan to put out a bond for $5 million that would be paid back when these homes are repaired and they're sold to a family that will
Time. Thank you very much.
I think the question was what we're going to do about homelessness in the city of Providence. And I think that was the question. We still have 600, 700 abandoned properties in the city of Providence, and it's stayed stagnant for the past 6-8 years. And frankly, I don't want to get argumentative, but we wouldn't have had this amount of homelessness if, in fact, we had fixed these houses over the years. Now, how do we fix houses? Well, we fix them by having not an investor-driven bond or rehabilitation of housing program, but a home ownership investment opportunity. And I think that's what I would like to promote. Let's talk homelessness, which is really the question. The homelessness here in the city of Providence has probably never been worse. You see people standing on sidewalks, you see people panting, you see people begging. In addition to that, they have no place to go at night. I remember interviewing on my radio show some homeless people. And with the West, we have shelters, and no one should be sleeping on streets, no one should be sleeping under railway passes and all that kind of stuff. We need to have a comprehensive audit of who sleeps outside, who is homeless, and we got to boost our shelter program, and we should find out who they are, give them the help, and then in addition to that, try to put them in touch with the agency that can help them the most, and then of course work toward getting them the job opportunities that they need, giving time health-wise that they need, and finding them a place.
Thank you very much.
Issue of homelessness, of course, is the highest commercial tax rates in the nation for several years running, high home tax rates, and even apartment tax rates in the city. It's been caused by bad fiscal management of the city over the course of the last 3 years. The same reasons that have led to a $2 billion deficit in our pension fund and $1 billion that we need to fix our schools. This is like the taxes to try to maintain the city. And these need to be brought down. I've had an interest in the idea of receivership, to try to get rid of a lot of our unjust debts, our unjust pensions, our unjust tax stabilization programs. And that way we can eliminate the car tax, we can reduce the housing tax, and the rentals will come back down. Now, I have about 30 seconds. Can I yield it to Judge Alorza? Because he has a wonderful plan.
No. We're on to our next question. Sir, please let the audience know your name.
My name is Wallace Solanco. I've been living in South Carolina for 25 years. My question is this. With all the talks about trying to do something to curb the violence in the city, there's been mention made of more police, being needed on the streets and better community relations between police and the local communities. More concretely, I want to ask if the candidates oppose the militarization of our local police forces so that we will never have in Providence a situation like that which we have witnessed in Ferguson. We do not want Ferguson here. Incidentally, if you respond no, that you agree that we should not be militarizing our police, then you are in opposition to our congressional representatives, both of whom have voted in Congress for the militarization of local police, which I think is a goddamn shame.
Thank you very much.
So this question and answer portion was planned. I wanted to put it out there. We had 30 extra minutes left, and it was just, hey, we can do some questions and answer. So the candidates didn't have time to prepare for this. I just wanted to put that out there for folks.
Very good.
Well, thank you for the question. And yes, I absolutely oppose the further militarization of our police force. You know, and I think it's important that you mentioned the Ferguson tragedy. You know, we talk a great deal about the relationship between the community and the police, and I've been adamant from the beginning that with the police officers that we have working here in the city, I want more police officers to live here in Providence so that they're members of our community. And I can guarantee you that what happened in Ferguson would not have happened had there been an existing relationship between that police officer and with that child.
One mic, please. Respect, please. Let the gentleman speak.
I'm agreeing with you, sir. And the other piece that I've been very adamant about is that with the police department that we do have, we need more diversity in our police force. And Ferguson is the perfect example. You're dealing with a city that's majority minority, and in their entire police department, they had 3 minority officers. 3 minority officers. I'm proud that we have the most diverse police academy in the city's history, but we're going to make sure that the entire police force reflects the city that it serves with more women and more minorities. And this is a priority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cianci.
For those who are in line for questions, we only have time for 2 more questions. Just a heads up, okay?
First of all, let me say I'm definitely opposed to the militarization of the police department. Because if you have an undisciplined police department, you have to have discipline, but not a military operation. If you have no discipline in the police department, you have what could become an armed mob. We don't want that. One of the first proposals I'm going to make, learning from my previous administration, even though I had great commissioners, if I'm elected mayor, I will appoint someone from the civilian community who has not had a previous police career to be the Commissioner of Public Safety, because the civilian is the one who let people live in the city and promise to a police person. You all voted, unfortunately, to give them the residency that they could live anywhere. What we should have done with this police academy is we should have said to them, you want to live in the city, you're starting young families, we're going to give you a low interest loan, stay in the city. Buy a house in the city, we'll help you do it. This is what we had, the NAA. Cheryl,
please, one mic.
Sorry about that, about Ferguson. They are supposed to be trained to stop it. What we have to continue to see larger is the perception of young African American men as dangerous and criminal. Until we begin to reverse this perception, and until all Americans, white Americans in particular, believe in the humanity of black people, we will continue to have these incidents of violence. Particularly when we are talking about police who need the training to control what might be their own traditional biases and stereotypes.
Time.
Sensitivity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cianci.
No militarization.
Mr. Harris.
Well, it's unanimous. We all agree with the militarization of the try to get these type of laws and things changed. We also all agree for the two other important points tonight, that we need to have a police force that reflects the community, reflects the cultural makeup of the community, and those police need to be carefully chosen and trained and brought into the community. But we need to have innovative programs to get people to come back into the community. I mentioned I come from a police family. When my grandfather and grandmother were alive, they lived on Roger Williams Avenue. He was sort of the local cop on the block at that particular time. And that's exactly the sort of thing we need to move back into the city at this particular time.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Thank you for your answers. Two more questions, Shirami? One more?
And then we have to wrap up.
One more to wrap up. Okay, what time is it? 2 questions. All right, 2 questions.
Hi, my name is Taja, and I'm a dear activist at youth. My question is mostly for you. You said that more police in the streets. How are we going to have more police in our streets if we can't even trust them? And it's not even about us, it's about the youth. As a child, I was told that the children are the future of tomorrow, and that that's what matters. So how are we supposed to trust the cops if we fear them, or our youth fear them? So why would more cops be in the street if they walk up their door, they don't even want to go to school, they choose to be other places because the cops are the ones that are using us and hurting us?
I can't say that. I don't think either of the other candidates either said that they both also said we need more cops. What I also said was, that's not my first priority. My first priority is to put the money into education, into nonviolence education, into the schools, into giving young people places to go, things to do, to try to teach them and get them away from violence. The police force, I think, has dropped too low. I think that's why we're seeing violence husband. But I also, if you remember, agree that we need to have tight civilian control and input for accountability into the police force. So while we need the number, we also need the structure around that to be sure, I quoted Latin, so you don't see that much in a political speech. I quoted Latin, guards to guard the guards. That is, we need civilians to watch over the police force. But I do think there should be more police force.
Do any other candidates wish to address that question? All right, very good. Last question, and please state your name. Who's answering the question?
I just want to say this, because today I had to call my sister. I had to tell her to keep her daughter in the house. I had to call my brother so he can keep his kids in the house. And I had to call my son to tell him to stay in the house.
Was a shooting.
Chad actually probably the same person that got shot. He actually got hurt. And the last time this happened, 4 shootings happened in Mount Hope in less than 24 hours with no police presence. Okay, so I don't know what's going to happen next. And Mr. Lord, I respect you, I love you, I think you're a good man. The question I want to ask though is in relation to what you said. Because I remember that time. I remember being able to go to the park. I remember being able to hang out in the park. The park was filled, and I didn't have to worry about going home and getting shot. And the question I want to ask is, who was the mayor during that time?
I grew up in Providence, spent my entire life here, aside from some time, in New York City and also in school, but aside from those, about 2.5, 3 years, I've lived my entire life here in the city. I grew up on Cranston Street in the 80s, during the crack epidemic. And no one is going to tell me that those were rosy days for our community. No one is going to tell me. I'm not going to get into the back and forth and dog my opponent or this and that. I'm going to say that here with this forum, there's broad agreement, with respect to much of the platform here with DARE. And what I find so powerful is what's at the core of this organization, which is power to the people. And as mayor, I am committed to making sure that that voice, directly from the community, finds its way into every decision that we make at City Hall. Let's reverse the power structure, where we're being talked down to, where we're seen as communities that require services. What if we look at our communities as true partners in community development, as true partners in solving the great challenges that we have here in the city? That's the commitment that I made. That's what I had throughout my campaign, and that's how we're going to continue throughout the administration. Thanks,
Very good. We want to thank all of our mayoral candidates this evening for taking the time to be here to respond to our agenda and our questions.